The station hung in space like a crystal flower, its petals made of metal and light. Inside, representatives from 800 different worlds gathered in the grand chamber. The air smelled strange. A mix of atmospheres blended together so everyone could breathe. Admiral Jiho stood alone at the center of the massive room, his uniform crisp and dark against the pale walls. He had known this day would come. For weeks he had watched the other species whisper and point at him. Their many eyes, some large and some small, all carried the same message: fear. They were afraid of humanity. The lead prosecutor rose from his seat. His body towered 12 feet high, covered in hard shell-like armor that clicked when he moved. 6 legs carried him forward, and his voice boomed through the chamber without need for speakers. Humanity has been part of this council for 30 years, the prosecutor said. 30 years of expansion, 30 years of building weapons, 30 years of pushing boundaries that have stood for 3,000 years. Jiho kept his face calm. He had practiced this moment in front of mirrors, in front of his officers, in front of empty rooms. Show no anger, show no fear. Let them see only strength. We gave Earth the gift of faster-than-light travel, the prosecutor continued. We welcomed them to the galactic community. And how did they repay us? By militarizing every planet they touched, by questioning every law we have built over millennia, by refusing to slow down. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Jiho could see species he had never met before, their forms so alien that he could not tell where their heads ended and their bodies began. All of them nodded in agreement with the prosecutor. Admiral Jiho, the head speaker called out. Her species looked almost human, except for the silver skin and the way her eyes glowed with internal light. You may defend your species now. Jiho walked forward. His boots echoed on the crystal floor. Every step felt heavy, like walking through deep water. He reached the speaking platform and looked up at the thousands of beings watching him. 3,000 years ago, Jiho began, the species in this room learned to work together. You built this council. You created laws. You made peace across the galaxy. He paused, letting his words sink in. But you had 3,000 years to kill each other first. 3,000 years of wars and weapons and death. Only then did you choose peace. The chamber grew quiet. Some of the representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Humanity has had faster-than-light travel for 30 years. Jiho continued. Just 30 years. And you expect us to have the wisdom you gained over 3 millennia. You judge us for being young, for being aggressive, for building weapons. But every species in this room did exactly the same thing when they were our age. That is precisely the problem. The prosecutor shot back. You are dangerous because you are young. You expand too fast. You adapt too quickly. You refuse to accept that some things should remain unchanged. We cannot risk another war. Not when we have finally achieved lasting peace. Jiho felt his jaw tighten. So your solution is to lock us away? To cut us off from the galaxy because we make you uncomfortable? Not uncomfortable, the head speaker said softly. Afraid, yes, Admiral. We are afraid of what humanity might become if left unchecked. The vote came swiftly. 847 species voted to exile humanity. Only 3 voted against it. Jiho memorized which 3. Humanity would remember its friends. The head speaker stood, her silver skin catching the light from 1,000 different suns streaming through the station's windows. Humanity is hereby removed from the Galactic Council. All human colonies will be isolated behind a quantum barrier. No ships may enter or leave human space. This barrier will remain in place for no less than 1,000 years. In that time, perhaps humanity will learn the patience and wisdom required to join civilized space. Jiho said nothing. What could he say that would matter now? The decision was made. He simply nodded once and turned to leave. As he walked through the chamber, none of the representatives met his eyes. Some looked ashamed. Others looked relieved. Most looked indifferent, as if they had just voted on a minor trade agreement rather than condemning billions of humans to isolation. Jiho's shuttle waited in the docking bay. His pilot, a young officer named Minho, stood at attention. Sir, they really did it? Yes, Jiho said simply. He climbed into the shuttle and strapped himself into his seat. Through the window, he could see Earth in the distance, a blue marble hanging in the black. His home, soon to be his prison. The shuttle launched. As they flew away from the station, Jiho watched the council ships begin to move. Hundreds of vessels, each one massive and powerful, moved toward human space. They were going to build the barrier. His communication device buzzed. A message appeared on the screen. It was encrypted with a code so old that even Jiho had almost forgotten it existed. He entered the password with steady fingers. The message was short, just 7 words that made his heart beat faster. Phase 3 complete. The fleet awaits orders. Jiho allowed himself a small smile. The council thought they were containing a threat. They thought humanity would spend 1,000 years trapped and isolated, growing weak and dependent. They thought wrong. For 20 years since long before this vote, humanity had been preparing. In secret shipyards hidden in the dark spaces between stars, in research facilities buried deep under lunar rock, in training centers that officially did not exist, humanity had been building something the council could not imagine. Jiho looked at Minho. The young pilot was staring out the window, watching the council ships gather like wolves around a fence. "Captain," Jiho said quietly, "Sir, how long do you think it will take them to build the barrier?" Minho checked his instruments. "Based on the number of ships and the size of human space, maybe 6 months, sir." "And how long will it take us to break through it?" Minho glanced back at him, confused. "Sir, I don't understand." "Breakthrough? The quantum barriers are impossible to breach. The Council has used them for centuries to contain spatial anomalies. Nothing gets through them." Jiho's smile grew wider. "Captain, remind me, where were you stationed 2 years ago?" "I was training, sir. Special operations training in the outer colonies." "And what were you training for?" Minho's eyes widened as understanding dawned. Oh, sir, really?" "Really," Jiho confirmed. He looked back out the window at Earth, at the Council ships beginning their work, at the galaxy that had just rejected humanity. "They think they can cage us. Let them build their pretty cage. When we break out, they will learn what happens when you corner a species that refuses to die quietly." The shuttle flew on toward Earth. Behind them, the Council celebrated their peaceful solution. Ahead of them, hidden in the darkness, 2,000 warships waited in silence. Humanity had been planning for this day. The Council had made their choice. Now humanity would show them the consequences of that choice. The exile had begun, but it would not end the way the Council expected. Not even close. 20 years earlier, the moon looked peaceful. Its gray surface stretched endlessly under the black sky, dotted with research stations and mining operations. But deep inside the Tycho crater, hidden beneath layers of rock and metal, something secret was being born. Dr. Hana stood in front of a room full of generals and politicians. Her hands shook slightly as she held the data tablet, but her voice stayed steady. She had spent 5 years preparing this presentation. 5 years of analyzing every piece of information humanity had gathered about the Galactic Council. "They will exile us," she said flatly. "Not today. Not tomorrow. But within 20 years, the Council will vote to remove humanity from galactic civilization." The room erupted in protest. President Taewon raised his hand for silence. "That is a serious accusation, Dr. Hana. What evidence do you have?" Hana tapped her tablet. The wall behind her lit up with graphs and charts. "I have analyzed 3,000 years of Council history. Every time a new species joins and expands rapidly, the same pattern emerges. The elder species grow nervous. They begin to complain about aggression, about violation of traditions, about dangerous unpredictability." She changed the display. 17 times in Council history, a young species has been exiled. 17 times the reason given was always the same: too dangerous, too unpredictable, too young to understand proper civilization. "But we have not done anything wrong," one general argued. "We follow their laws. We attend their meetings. We trade fairly." "It does not matter," Hana replied. "What matters is that we make them uncomfortable. We build ships faster than they expect. We colonize planets they thought were uninhabitable. We solve problems in ways they never considered. To them, we are not impressive. We are frightening." President Taewon leaned forward. He was an old man, gray-haired and tired, but his eyes were sharp. "If what you say is true, Dr. Hana, what do you propose we do about it?" Hana took a deep breath. This was the moment that would define humanity's future. "We prepare for war." The silence that followed was absolute. Finally, one admiral spoke. "You want us to start a war with the entire Galactic Council?" "No," Hana said firmly. "I want us to be ready when they start one with us. Because exile is not peace. Exile is warfare without bloodshed. They will trap us, isolate us, and wait for us to wither away. Unless we are ready." President Taewon studied her for a long moment. What would this preparation require? Hana displayed her plans. We need secret shipyards, hidden research facilities, a complete program to develop weapons and ships that do not rely on Council technology. And we need to start immediately, today, right now. The meeting lasted 12 hours. They argued about costs, about secrecy, about morality. Some called Hana paranoid. Others called her a warmonger. But in the end, President Taewon made his decision. Operation Prometheus is approved, he declared. Dr. Hana, you have unlimited resources. Build us a fleet that can survive exile, and pray to whatever gods you believe in that you are wrong about everything. Hana nodded. She hoped she was wrong too. But she knew she was not. The next 5 years passed in a blur of construction and secrecy. In the Kuiper Belt, far beyond the regular patrol routes, construction crews built shipyards inside hollowed-out asteroids. They worked in silence, their ships running on minimal power to avoid detection. Sunwoo was the engineer who made it all possible. He was younger than most of the scientists, barely 30 years old, but his mind worked in ways that others could not match. He stared at the Council's faster-than-light drive designs for months, taking them apart piece by piece in his mind. It is too dependent, he muttered to himself one night. Everything connects to their network. Cut the network and the drives stop working. We need something independent. Something that works alone. He called it the Ghost Drive. It used different principles than Council technology, drawing power from quantum fluctuations in space itself. It was slower than Council drives, but it did not need their permission to work. More importantly, Council sensors could not detect it easily. The first test nearly killed him. The experimental ship vanished from normal space and did not return for 3 hours. When it finally appeared, Sunwoo stumbled out of the cockpit, vomiting and shaking. But he was grinning. It works, he gasped. It actually works. Within a year, every ship being secretly built included a ghost drive. Humanity could now move through space without the Council's knowledge or approval. Meanwhile, on a frozen moon orbiting Jupiter, Commander Yuna trained pilots in ways the Council would never understand. Council warfare was ritualized and formal. Ships faced each other in neat formations. Battles followed ancient rules about honor and proper conduct. Yuna threw all of those rules away. We are not going to fight fair, she told her pilots. Fair fighting is for people who can afford to lose. We cannot afford to lose. Not ever. Her training was brutal. Pilots flew until they could barely see straight. They practiced ambushes, sneak attacks, and hit-and-run tactics. They learned to use the environment as a weapon, hiding behind asteroids, diving through gas clouds, emerging from the corona of stars. The Council has bigger ships, Yuna explained. They have better shields and stronger weapons. One-on-one, they will kill us every time, so we never fight one-on-one. We fight in groups. We strike from shadows. We hit them before they know we are there, and we are gone before they can respond. Some pilots quit. They called Yuna's methods cowardly and dishonorable. She let them go without argument. Honor is a luxury, she said coldly. Survival is a necessity. The pilots who stayed became something new. Not just soldiers, but weapons themselves. Fast, efficient, and absolutely merciless in combat. As the years passed, the secret program grew. Thousands of people worked on it. Yet somehow the Council never noticed. Every civilian transport ship that launched had hidden compartments containing weapons. Every mining station in the outer system concealed manufacturing facilities. Every scientific expedition secretly mapped Council territory. Dr. Hana rarely slept. She moved between facilities, checking progress, solving problems, pushing everyone to work harder and faster. She knew time was running out. Her predictions showed exile coming within 10 to 15 years. She was right. In the 15th year of Operation Prometheus, Council delegates began to whisper. In the 18th year, formal complaints were filed. In the 20th year, the vote was called. Hana stood in the command center of Shipyard Omega, deep in the Oort cloud. Around her, hundreds of technicians worked at their stations. Through the massive windows, she could see the ships. Hundreds of them, each one built in secret, each one carrying weapons the Council did not know existed. A message came through. Admiral Jiho's face appeared on the screen. He looked older now, lines of stress carved into his face. Dr. Hana, he said quietly. The vote was unanimous. We are exiled, Hana nodded. She had known it was coming, but hearing it still hurt. How long until they complete the barrier? 6 months. Maybe less. Good, Hana said. That gives us time to position our ships. Time to finish the final preparations. How many ships do we have? Jiho asked. Hana looked out at the shipyard. In this facility alone, 500 combat vessels. Across all our hidden yards, nearly 2,000. Plus support ships, transports, and the special projects. Jiho was quiet for a moment. 2,000 warships. Built in secret over 20 years. I almost cannot believe we managed it. Believe it, Hana said. The council thinks they are putting humanity in a cage. They do not realize they are just giving us time to sharpen our teeth. She ended the call and turned to her staff. Activate all ships. Begin the waiting phase. From this moment on, we are on war footing. Every ship, every weapon, every person. We wait for the council to finish their barrier. We wait for them to forget about us. We wait for them to feel safe. One of the technicians asked nervously. How long will we wait? Hana stared out at the fleet. 2,000 ships floating in the darkness like sleeping predators. As long as it takes. 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. However long it takes for them to stop watching. And then when they least expect it, we remind them why they were afraid in the first place. The command center fell silent. Outside, the ships powered down to minimal operation. They would wait in the cold and dark, patient and ready. Humanity had been given a sentence of exile. But that sentence would not last 1,000 years. Not even close. The council had made a mistake. They had given humanity something more valuable than freedom. They had given them time. Time to prepare. Time to build. Time to plan their return. And when humanity returned, the galaxy would never be the same. The quantum barrier shimmered like an invisible wall around all of human space. From Earth, people could see it on clear nights. A faint glow at the edge of their solar system and beyond. It surrounded every human colony, every outpost, every ship. Humanity was alone now. The council watched through their long-range sensors. They saw human civilization slow down. Ship construction decreased. Expansion stopped. The aggressive young species seemed to accept their fate. The elder species of the council relaxed. The problem was solved. They did not look closely enough. Admiral Jiho was 50 years old when the barrier went up. 20 years later, at 70, his hair had turned completely gray, but his mind remained sharp as ever. He stood in the war room deep beneath Earth's surface, surrounded by screens showing every corner of human space. Status report, he said calmly. An officer stood. Fleet strength is now at 2,100 combat vessels. Support ships number 800. All vessels report ready status. Crew training is at maximum efficiency. Another officer continued. Weapons development has exceeded projections. Quantum torpedoes are online. Singularity cannons have passed all tests. Neural network swarm fighters are ready for deployment. Jiho nodded slowly. 20 years of preparation. 20 years of building in secret while the council thought humanity was contained. He looked at the screen showing council space so close yet impossibly far behind the barrier. What about Captain Minho's reconnaissance missions? A tactical officer brought up new displays. Captain Minho has completed his 47th deep space mapping run. Using quantum fluctuations in the barrier, he has successfully charted 70% of council territory within our operational range. We know where their shipyards are, where their supply lines run, and where their defensive weaknesses exist. Jiho smiled. Minho had been a young pilot when the exile began. Now he was humanity's greatest explorer, slipping his small scout ship through tiny imperfections in the barrier, mapping the enemy, and returning home safely every time. 47 missions without being detected. The man was either brilliant or lucky. Probably both. And our agent in council space? Hyun continues to send reports. His cover remains intact. That made Jiho's smile grow wider. Hyun was the ghost in the machine. Before the barrier went up, he had stayed behind on a council world, using diplomatic credentials that the council had not bothered to revoke. For 20 years he had lived among aliens, gathering intelligence, making contacts, and slowly building a network of informants. The council did not know a human still walked freely among them. Hyun's latest report sat on Jiho's desk. It detailed council fleet positions, political tensions between different species, and technological developments. But the most important information was simpler than that. The council had stopped watching the barrier carefully. They checked it once per year now, a simple scan to confirm it remained intact. They had grown comfortable, lazy, exactly what Jiho had hoped for. Send a message to Dr. Hana, Jiho ordered. Tell her it is almost time. Deep in the lunar research facility, Dr. Hana received the message and smiled. She was older now, too. Her black hair streaked with gray, but her eyes still burned with the same intensity. Around her, the Horizon engine hummed with barely contained power. The Horizon engine was her masterpiece. It had taken 15 years to build and another 5 to test. It was massive, requiring the power output of a small star to operate. But it could do something the Council thought impossible. It could cut through the quantum barrier like a knife through paper. "Begin final tests," Hannah ordered her team. "I want this engine ready to fire within the month." While the engine was tested, the rest of humanity prepared in their own ways. On Mars, factories ran day and night, producing ammunition and supplies. On Europa, training facilities pushed soldiers through their final exercises. On Titan, engineers built the last of the support ships that would keep the fleet supplied during the coming conflict. But the most important preparation was cultural. An entire generation had grown up behind the barrier. Children born after the exile were now adults. They had never seen an alien. They had never traveled beyond human space. All they knew was the barrier and the stories of the Council that had put it there. Salmon was in charge of keeping those stories alive. She ran the cultural ministry, making sure every human understood what had happened and why. Remember the barrier became humanity's rallying cry, not out of hatred but out of determination. They would not be caged forever. Schools taught military history now. Children learned tactics and strategy alongside mathematics and literature. Universities focused on engineering and weapons development. Humanity had transformed itself from a scattered collection of colonies into a unified military civilization. Everything and everyone had a purpose. Everything pointed toward the day when the barrier would fall. Captain Minho prepared for his 48th reconnaissance mission. His ship was small and fast, designed specifically to slip through microscopic tears in the barrier that opened and closed randomly. It was dangerous work. 3 other pilots had died attempting the same missions. But Minho had a gift for reading the quantum fluctuations, for knowing exactly when and where a tear would appear. He launched from a secret station in the Kuiper Belt. His ship accelerated toward the barrier, instruments scanning for the telltale signs of a temporary opening. There, a fluctuation forming near the edge of human space, close to where the Council had a sensor outpost. Minho guided his ship toward the fluctuation. The barrier loomed ahead, a wall of twisted space that would tear his ship apart if he hit it wrong. The fluctuation grew larger. For exactly 3 seconds, there would be a gap barely larger than his ship. He went through at full speed. The sensation was like being turned inside out and then put back together. His instruments went crazy for a moment before stabilizing. He was through. He was in Council space. The sensor outpost was a small station orbiting a dead moon. Minho's ship was in stealth mode, nearly invisible to Council technology. He drifted past the station, his scanners recording everything. Guard schedules, sensor ranges, communication frequencies, everything that would be useful when the real ships came through. He saw the Council crew through his enhanced optics. They looked bored. One of them was sleeping at his station. They were not expecting trouble. Why would they? Humanity was locked away behind an impenetrable barrier. What threat could they possibly pose? Minho finished his scan and turned back toward human space. He had 4 hours before the quantum fluctuation would reappear for his return. He used that time to push deeper into Council territory, mapping trade routes and patrol patterns. The Council had grown comfortable, predictable. Their ships followed the same routes every time. Their patrols ran like clockwork. It would be their downfall. When Minho returned to human space, he went straight to Admiral Jiho's office. He laid out his findings on the table. Maps, data, schedules, everything the fleet would need. "They are not ready," Minho reported. "The Council is peaceful. They have not fought a real war in 1,500 years. Their ships are powerful, but their crews are not trained for actual combat. They follow rules. They expect honor. They will not know how to respond when we attack." Jiho studied the maps. "How long do you think we have before they realize we are a threat again?" "After we breach the barrier? Maybe a week before they mobilize. Maybe 2. They will not believe it at first. They will think it is a malfunction or a small accident. By the time they understand the truth, we will already be at their doorstep." "Good," Jiho said, "because Dr. Hana tells me the Horizon engine will be ready in 3 weeks. In 1 month, we go to war." The word spread through human space like electricity. After 20 years of waiting, the moment was finally coming. Soldiers reported to their ships. Pilots ran final checks on their fighters. Engineers loaded weapons and supplies. Families said goodbye to their loved ones, knowing many would not return. But there was no panic, no fear. This was what they had prepared for. This was their purpose. Admiral Jiho stood on the bridge of the warship Defiance, humanity's flagship. Around him, 2,000 ships took their positions. They formed up in strike groups, each one assigned specific targets in council space. They had practiced this formation 1,000 times. Now they would do it for real. Dr. Hana's voice came through the communication system. Horizon engine is online. Ready to fire on your command, Admiral. Jiho looked out at the fleet. 2,000 ships. 100,000 crew members. The hopes of 8 billion humans resting on this one moment. He thought about the council, comfortable in their space, believing humanity was contained. He thought about the vote 20 years ago. 847 species deciding that humanity was too dangerous to be free. They had been right to be afraid. But being right would not save them. Dr. Hana, Jiho said calmly, fire the Horizon engine. Tear down this barrier. Let us show the council what happens when they cage a species that refuses to die. The engine fired, space itself screamed, and the barrier began to crack. The Horizon engine tore a hole in reality itself. The quantum barrier, which had surrounded human space for 20 years, split open like torn fabric. The tear was small at first, barely large enough for a single ship. But it grew. Dr. Hana fed more power into the engine, and the tear expanded to 1 kilometer wide, then 10 kilometers, then 100. Admiral Jiho watched from the bridge of the Defiance. All ships, he commanded. Execute Operation Exodus. First wave, proceed through the breach. Captain Minho led the first wave. 50 ships, small and fast, equipped with the best stealth technology humanity had developed. They slipped through the tear in the barrier and immediately spread out in different directions. Their mission was simple. Eliminate council observation posts before anyone could send a warning. Minho's ship targeted the sensor station he had scouted months ago. The council crew was still bored, still unaware. They never saw the quantum torpedo coming. The station simply ceased to exist, vaporized in an instant. No explosion, no debris, just empty space where a station had been. Across the border, 49 other stations died in the same way. Silent, clean, complete. The council's early warning system vanished in less than 10 minutes. They were blind now. They had no idea the barrier had been breached. First wave reporting, Minho's voice came through clearly. All targets eliminated. No distress signals detected. We are ghosts in their space, sir. Jiho allowed himself a small smile. Second wave, advance. The second wave was larger. 200 ships, these ones equipped for direct combat. They moved through the breach in tight formations, their ghost drives leaving almost no trace for council sensors. Dr. Hana kept the Horizon engine running, expanding the breach to 20 kilometers wide. More ships poured through. 300, 500, 1,000. It took 72 hours for the entire fleet to exit human space. Throughout that time, the council remained unaware. Their sensors showed nothing unusual. Their patrols continued their regular routes. The galaxy went about its business as normal, not knowing that humanity was loose among the stars again. All ships through, an officer reported. The breach is stable. Dr. Hana asks if she should close it. Jiho considered for a moment. No, leave it open. When we return, we want easy access. Besides, let the council see it eventually. Let them know their perfect barrier was never as strong as they thought. The fleet organized itself according to the plan they had practiced for 2 decades. Strike groups formed up, each with a specific target. Minho led Group Alpha toward the nearest council world, a mining planet called Viridian. Group Beta headed for a major shipyard. Group Gamma targeted a supply hub. 20 different strike groups, 20 different targets, all attacking simultaneously. Meanwhile, deep in council space, Hyon received the coded signal he had been waiting 20 years to hear. 3 words. The fleet comes. He was sitting in a cafe on the council homeworld pretending to read alien literature. Around him, council citizens went about their day. They laughed, they talked, they complained about minor inconveniences. They had no idea their entire civilization was about to be shaken to its core. Hyon activated his hidden network. Over the years, he had recruited informants, not through bribery or threats, but through friendship. Some were council species who had disagreed with humanity's exile. Others were simply people who liked him and did not think about the implications. Now those friendships became weapons. Messages went out, subtle suggestions planted in the right ears, small acts of sabotage disguised as accidents. Communication networks began to experience mysterious delays. Military messages got rerouted to wrong departments. Logistics reports contained small but crucial errors. The Council's response capability was being quietly destroyed from within, and they did not even know it yet. Group Alpha reached Viridian first. Minho brought his ships out of Ghost Drive just outside the planet's sensor range. Before him, he could see the mining world, gray and lifeless except for the massive operations on its surface. Orbiting the planet were 6 Council patrol ships, old but still armed. All ships, Minho ordered. Attack pattern Omega. Remember your training. The human ships accelerated to attack speed. The Council patrol noticed them too late. Their commander tried to sound an alarm, but Hyan's sabotage had already delayed the communication network by crucial seconds. By the time the message got through, Minho's ships were already firing. The battle lasted 6 minutes. The Council ships tried to respond, but they fought according to their ancient rules. They formed up in traditional defensive positions. They waited for the humans to declare themselves and state their intentions. They expected honor. They got tactics instead. Minho's ships came from 6 different angles at once. Half of them fired at engines while the other half targeted weapons. There was no formation, no honor, no ritual, just efficient, brutal destruction. When it was over, 6 Council ships drifted in pieces through space. Not a single human vessel had been damaged. Minho's crews immediately began jamming all communications from the planet below. Viridian was isolated now, cut off from the rest of the Council. Group Alpha to Admiral Jiho, Minho reported. First target secured. 0 casualties. Proceeding to secondary objectives. Across Council space, 19 other reports came in, all successful. All with minimal losses. The Council was learning a painful lesson. 20 years of isolation had not weakened humanity. It had given them time to become something far more dangerous. On the Defiance, Admiral Jiho reviewed the tactical displays. Every target hit. Every objective achieved. The initial phase of the operation had succeeded beyond his best predictions. Now came the hard part. A young officer named Daehyun approached. He was brilliant with computers, capable of hacking systems that should have been impossible to breach. Sir, I have been analyzing Council communication networks. I found something interesting. Show me, Jiho said. Daehyun brought up a map of Council space. Their entire government runs through a central nexus here. He pointed to a system near the center of Council territory. Every major decision, every fleet movement, every important message goes through this location. If we could take it out, we could blind the entire Council, Jiho finished. Good work, Lieutenant. How well defended is it? Very. At least 50 capital ships in permanent orbit. Ground defenses that could repel an invasion force 10 times our size. And it is deep in Council space. We would have to fight through multiple defensive lines to reach it. Jiho studied the display. It was a tempting target but risky. If they tried and failed, the entire operation could collapse. But if they succeeded, the Council would be crippled. Mark it as a priority target, Jiho decided. But not yet. First, we show them what we are capable of. We let them mobilize their forces. Let them think they can contain us. Then we strike at the heart while they are looking at the edges. Commander Yuna's fighter wings were already engaged in their mission. She led 300 pilots through the outer systems of Council space, hitting patrol routes and supply convoys. Her tactics were the same ones she had trained for 20 years. Strike fast, hit hard. Disappear before they can respond. A Council supply convoy never knew what hit them. One moment they were traveling peacefully through neutral space. The next, human fighters appeared from nowhere, destroyed their escort ships and vanished back into the dark. The supply ships themselves were left intact but immobilized. Yuna did not believe in unnecessary killing. Her pilots reported in. 0 losses, 15 Council escorts destroyed, 20 supply ships captured. The captured ships contained weapons, fuel, and replacement parts. All things the human fleet would need as the campaign continued. Well done, Yuna told her squadrons. Rest and rearm. We have 9 more convoys to hit today. The Council finally realized something was wrong 12 hours after the first attacks. A patrol ship that survived an encounter managed to send a message through Hyan's sabotage. The message was confused and panicked, but the essential truth got through. Humans had broken out of the barrier. Humans were attacking. The council chamber erupted in chaos. The same species that had voted to exile humanity now screamed at each other in fear. How had humans escaped? How had they built a fleet? Why had no one detected this coming? The head speaker, now very old and slow, tried to restore order. Mobilize the defense fleets. Send ships to protect our core worlds. And someone find out how extensive this attack is. But the mobilization was slow. The council had not fought a real war in 1,500 years. Their ships were maintained, but their crews were unpracticed. Orders got confused. Ships went to the wrong locations. Communication networks, damaged by Hyon sabotage, made coordination nearly impossible. By the time the council fleets began to organize, humanity had already taken control of 12 systems. Not through occupation, but through demonstration. Human ships would appear, destroy military targets with terrifying efficiency, and then broadcast a simple message. Admiral Jiho recorded the message himself. His image was transmitted to every council world in range. You exiled us 20 years ago. You thought isolation would make us weak. You were wrong. We have used this time to become stronger, smarter, and more capable than you can imagine. We do not want to destroy you. We want recognition. We want freedom. We want the exile ended. The war lasted 1 year. Not because the council was strong, but because humanity was careful. Admiral Jiho did not want to conquer. He wanted to prove a point. 12 major council worlds felt the touch of human weapons. Not the civilian cities, but the military installations. Space stations that coordinated fleet movements simply vanished. Shipyards where council vessels were built found themselves surrounded by human ships. Their workers given exactly 1 hour to evacuate before the facilities were destroyed. Supply depots that fed the council military machine were captured intact. Their contents added to humanity's growing stockpile. The council tried to fight back. They sent their fleets to engage the human invaders. Those battles did not go well for them. Captain Minho led the defense of the Arcturus system when a council battle group of 30 heavy cruisers arrived to retake it. The council commander followed traditional tactics, forming his ships into a defensive sphere and advancing slowly. He expected the humans to do the same. Instead, Minho's ships scattered in all directions. Half of them disappeared completely using their ghost drives. The council commander searched for them, confused. Where did they go? They came from above and below simultaneously, from angles the council had never considered. Human ships dove through the council formation like sharks through a school of fish. They fired once, twice, and vanished again before return fire could be organized. The battle lasted 20 minutes. 15 council ships were destroyed. The other 15 retreated in disorder. Not a single human ship was lost. Minho had performed the same maneuver he had practiced 1,000 times in training. The council had never seen anything like it. Commander Yuna continued her campaign of terror against council supply lines. Her fighters hit convoys, resource stations, and communication relays. The council tried to adapt, adding more escorts to their convoys. It did not help. Yuna would simply wait until the escorts were looking the wrong direction, strike in seconds, and vanish. They fight like ghosts, one council admiral complained. They are here, then they are gone. We cannot pin them down. We cannot predict them. Hyun worked his own kind of warfare from inside council space. His network of informants had grown large enough that he could now influence council decision-making without anyone knowing. A suggestion here, a rumor there. False intelligence planted in the right ears. Council fleets went to defend systems that were not under attack. Resources were diverted to build defenses that humanity never intended to assault. But the real blow came when Admiral Jiho launched Operation Gauntlet. Lieutenant Daehyun had perfected his analysis of the Council's central nexus. Jiho gathered his fleet 2,000 ships strong and jumped toward the heart of Council space. The defenders of the Nexus system were ready. 50 capital ships orbited the station, each one massive and heavily armed. Planetary defense batteries covered every approach. Minefields surrounded the station in layers. It was the most heavily defended location in Council space. Jiho did not attack it directly. Instead, he split his fleet into 4 groups. Each group attacked a different system surrounding the Nexus. The Council defenders panicked. Which attack was real? Which was a feint? They tried to send help to all 4 locations at once, dividing their forces. That was when Minho led a strike force of 200 ships directly at the Nexus itself. With the defenders scattered, the station was vulnerable. Minho's ships came in fast, destroyed the orbital platforms, and placed charges on the central nexus structure itself. "This is Captain Minho to Council Command," he broadcast. "We have your central communications hub. It will be destroyed in 10 minutes unless you agree to negotiations. You have 9 minutes to decide." The Council had 847 member species. Getting them to agree on anything usually took months. But with less than 9 minutes, they moved with surprising speed. The head speaker, now ancient and barely able to move, gave the order herself. "Agree to their terms. Negotiate. Do whatever it takes to stop this." Admiral Jiho received the surrender signal on the Defiance. He looked at it for a long moment, then nodded. "Stand down all offensive operations. Recall all strike groups. Prepare for diplomatic talks." The Council wanted to negotiate in secret away from public eyes. Jiho refused. "We will meet on Centauri Prime," he declared. "The same station where you exiled us. The whole galaxy will watch." They met in the Grand Chamber, the same room where humanity had been condemned 20 years earlier. But the room was different now. Burn marks scarred the walls from a human attack that had disabled the station's defenses. Council representatives sat in their seats, but they looked smaller somehow. Afraid. Admiral Jiho entered the chamber. He was 70 years old now, gray-haired and tired, but he walked like a man who had already won. Behind him came his command staff. Captain Minho, Commander Yuna, Lieutenant Daehyun, and from Council space, walking out of the shadows where he had hidden for 20 years, came Hyun. The Council gasped. A human had been living among them the entire time. How was it possible? The head speaker waited for silence. "Admiral Jiho," she said, her voice weak with age. "You have proven your point. Humanity is not weak. You are not contained by barriers. We understand this now. What do you want?" Jiho stood in the same spot where he had stood 20 years ago. "I want what we always wanted. Freedom. Recognition. A place at this table as equals, not as children to be disciplined when you find us inconvenient." "The barrier will be removed," the head speaker agreed. "Human ships will have access to Council space once more. You will be restored to your previous status." "Not good enough," Jiho said flatly. "Previous status? We were barely tolerated before. We want more than that. We want permanent representation on the Council's executive board. We want equal access to all trade routes and technology exchanges. We want recognition that humanity is not a threat to be contained, but a civilization to be respected." The chamber erupted in protest. Some species shouted about humanity's aggression. Others demanded that humans be punished for the attack. A few, the same 3 that had voted against exile, stayed silent and watched. Dr. Hana entered the chamber then. She had not been invited, but no one stopped her. She walked to the center of the room and placed a device on the floor. It hummed with power. "This," she announced, "is a temporal displacement device. It can reverse the quantum barrier's creation. It can erase the last 20 years from existence, restoring the timeline to before the exile was ever declared." The chamber went silent. Temporal technology was forbidden in Council space. It was considered too dangerous, too unpredictable. But humanity had developed it anyway. "We could use this," Hana continued. "We could make it so the exile never happened. But we would also erase everything else. All the Council decisions made in the last 20 years, all the new species that joined, all the treaties and agreements. Everything gone, reset to 20 years ago. Is that what you want?" The head speaker stared at the device. "You would risk destroying the entire timeline?" "We would," Hana said simply. "Because that is what desperation looks like. That is what happens when you corner a species with nothing left to lose. We will burn the galaxy down rather than accept chains." An old reptilian council member named Velcris rose from his seat. He was 800 years old and had served the council for 5 centuries. His voice was dry and ancient. "I understand now," he said slowly. "We did not exile humanity to protect the galaxy. We exiled them to protect ourselves, because we saw in them what we once were. Young, aggressive, unwilling to accept limits. And it terrified us." He looked at Jiho. "We thought that by isolating you we could make you more like us. Calm, patient, safe. But we forgot the most important lesson of history. Pressure does not create weakness. It creates strength. We gave you 20 years to become stronger. That was our mistake." Another council member stood. Then another. Slowly. A third of the chamber rose to their feet. They were the species that remembered their own youth, their own struggles to be accepted. They understood. Hyun stepped forward. I have lived among you for 20 years. I have seen your civilization from inside. You are not evil. You are not even cruel. You are simply old. You have forgotten what it means to fight for survival. You have forgotten what it means to be afraid and powerless. Humanity has not forgotten. We will never forget. He gestured to the device Hana had brought. We do not want to use this. We do not want to erase the last 20 years. We want to move forward, but we will only move forward as equals. The vote took 3 hours. It was not unanimous. Some species still feared humanity. Others resented being forced to negotiate under threat. But in the end, the vote was clear. 412 species voted to accept humanity's terms. That was enough. The Treaty of Mars was signed 1 month later. Earth received a permanent seat on the Council's executive board. Human ships gained free access to all Council space. The quantum barrier was dissolved permanently, and humanity agreed to share its ghost drive technology freely with all Council species. Why would you share that? Velkris asked Jiho privately. The ghost drive is your greatest advantage, Jiho smiled. Because keeping secrets is how this war started. The Council kept us dependent on your technology. We built our own in secret. All of it led to conflict.